Cooking with Chefleen and my newly found talent on the street, Miles. Gotta get Instagram set up, but today we have some very exciting stuff planned for you. Let's see, Instagram. Oh, hey Instagram, welcome to Real Life Cooking. Chefleen here with Miles.
Hi everyone.
Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Miles. I'm here with my best friend Chefleen. We met over 8 years ago working at Red Rooster for Marcus Hamilton. Currently, I'm at
Your mere servers then.
Yes.
Look how we have risen.
Kind of risen to the top now.
Kind of risen, yes. So you all know I'm a chef. I've been a chef for 10 years. Real Life Cooking is all about teaching you how to cook a meal from start to finish from the comfort of your own home, no matter how your home looks. And Miles is now a events manager at Hotel One in Brooklyn, a beautiful venue that I've never seen.
Yes. Definitely come by the rooftop sometime, Chefleen.
Well, now it's like cold, so
we got
I don't
heaters.
know. But Miles is great at planning events. He's a very fancy person, loves all the finer things in life. However, Miles is a horrible cook. So, since this is all about teaching you guys how anyone can cook, I thought I would bring Exhibit A on. And he's wearing the part today. He's Chefleen, apparently. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Today we are making, you know what we're making? Pork chop. We're making pork chop au poivre with caramelized, with apple and onion jam and roasted broccoli rabe, or rapini if you want to be real fancy. And we're also making dessert. We're going to be making a Hassleback Apple. If you're familiar with the Hassleback potatoes that are like super thinly sliced, are you familiar with those?
Oh no, I don't know how to cook. I told you.
So we might as well get started because this might take us a while. Because I'm going to have Miles helping me out in the kitchen doing a few things, but I'm going to highly supervise because I want to eat at the end of this.
Might get all the baby in here.
We have Nikki today on the ones and twos of technological guru-ness. She is on hiatus for the week. You know, she got married and just forgot about me. Just kidding. But yeah, we have Nikki on the ones and twos. So if you have any questions culinary about what we're cooking or any questions otherwise, just drop them in the box below. Nikki will relay them. You're all good over there? Awesome.
All good.
And we're having a neighborly fest today. And we also have Brandon in the house. Christopher's home. We're gonna have a great time. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're gonna start with is the apple and onion jam. So we need, obviously, apples. We're gonna use 2 apples, 1 onion, and we need a garlic. We are gonna need balsamic vinegar. We're gonna need brown sugar. Not all of this brown sugar, but we're gonna need some of it. And we are gonna need, I think that's it, some salt maybe, but not quite yet. All right, so first...
What do we do? Because I'm lost already.
The first thing that we're going to do is thinly slice our onion. Do you know where to start with this? So I'll get it started.
Maybe you show me
I'm going to cut off just the top part, and then I left this root end intact. This is going to make you easier to hold. It holds all the layers of the onion together. And then I'm going to cut it in half here. And then you're going to... Now that we both have an equal half, you're going to peel back this first layer of skin of the onion because that's not edible unless, and then you're going to, now, you can use 2 different tools for this. What we really want is thinly sliced onions because we don't have a lot of time and caramelizing onions takes a long time. So if you have a mandolin, it's a very dangerous tool, I'm not going to let Miles touch it. You can use that to just thinly shave your onion. But it has a sharp blade right here, and if you slice your fingers, that could be really bad. So I'm going to let Miles use the knife against my better judgment. And what you're going to do is hold the knife here, right here, and you're going to rock the knife back and forth. And the knife is fairly sharp.
I think I could do that.
And try to cut it as thinly as possible. I'm scared. It's like when I do cooking classes for children. It's like, oh, are you left-handed?
Yeah, I'm left-handed.
Oh, I didn't know I let a left-handed person on this show.
What's wrong with lefties cooking? They need to cook as well.
Well, did you have the problem when you were a kid that you smeared all your papers?
Yes.
I feel like all left-handed people have that problem.
Don't write with marker today.
So I'm using the mandolin to shave my onion. Again, we're making a caramelized onion and apple jam. It's not going to be sweet like you would think of a strawberry jam or a grape jam, but it's really going to pair with our pork very well. Also, tip when you're using mandolin, when you get to the end like this, your fingers are much more worthy than the rest of this onion. So just put the onion down or whatever you're slicing down.
Yours looks like that. Mine looks like this.
Well, because this is the difference between using a mandolin and a knife, or just skill level. So yeah, now we're gonna throw this in a frying pan. I'm gonna put it on a pretty medium high heat, just a frying pan back here, people. And we're gonna put just a little bit of olive oil in, and we're gonna throw our onions in. Not throw them literally. We're gonna place our onions in first, because our onions are gonna take longer to develop sweet flavor, like that jammy flavor. Have you ever had like a bacon jam or onion jam at a restaurant? Yeah. So it takes a long time to create that, and we're gonna try to hurry that process along here because we only have hours. So yeah, I just put a little bit of olive oil, and the pan is on medium heat, and I'm gonna have you place all those onions into the.
So all these onions.
Oh, actually, let me show you my favorite tool, because I just saw you making. You can use this bench scraper, so you can put this down, make your life easier. Scrape it all together, and then just guide it all together on there.
This will end up on the floor.
Oh. See, listen, you gotta listen to Chefleen, okay? If things go awry today, it is not my fault. But hopefully we come out with a good meal. Alright, so if you're just joining us today on Real Life Cooking, we're making pork chop au poivre. Dang, I forgot to say it. It's a French word that means with pepper. It's like very, very basic. Like pork with pepper is what we're making. And we're making an apple and caramelized onion jam. We just thinly sliced our onions, and now we're gonna thinly slice our apples. I'm gonna just rinse these off really quick. It's okay. Just leave it. Just leave it. Now we're gonna use our apples. So, follow me.
I will try.
We're gonna cut our apple into 4 sections. Did you see what I did? So we cut our apple 2 big sides off. So cut that side off now.
Into 4, right?
Yeah, and you want to try to use the more of the back of your knife. This is really going well. And then I'm gonna cut off 2 on this side.
That's why you're here.
So you'll end up with this core. And normally when I'm cooking for myself, I'll snack on this. But since I'm talking to you guys, I'll just leave it to the side for now. Don't like to waste. Did we see these directions? What happened here? Question, comment?
Tiny T said Miles is gonna eat the entire pork chop all by himself.
Who's gonna eat the pork chop?
Miles.
Probably
dang, Miles.
will eat the whole pork chop.
And
All right,
PR De Leon said, "OMG, I'm scared. His fingers."
Yeah, I'm scared too, people. This might be the only episode that ever ends with like band-aids and things. All right, so notice I cut this into a square. I don't know what he did over here, but that's okay because we just want to make.
Learning experience.
We just want to make some slices out of these things that we have now. So again, just like you did with your onion, you want to cut these into as thin as possible. Yes, just like that, Miles. Also, the tip, if you're working, you want to make sure you have a nice clear area around your cutting board. It doesn't really matter what kind of apples you use here. You do want to use an apple that's good for cooking, because if you use one that is not good for cooking, you'll just end up with kind of like applesauce. There's like corn here. Do not put the corn in your apple jam. You'll end up with like
I think that was your apple.
Oh, of course, that's definitely mine. You'll end up with like apple mush, so definitely take the time to figure out which apples are good for cooking. Question?
How do you know which apples are good for cooking?
Well, there's this amazing thing called Google that is extra great
Google
for
it.
learning different apple types. But oftentimes in the stores, or if you shop at farmers markets, they'll be able to tell you. There's signs that say like this is good for cooking. Particularly good. I know there's one called like Malcolm. And Gala apples they're like okay, they're like the #1 apple, but I also really like the tartness that Granny Smith apples bring. Like when I make an apple pie, I always put in at least like a third Granny Smith apples.
Should we be watching that?
Yeah, we are. We want so our onions are back here cooking, but we want to get a nice caramelization. We want to start that caramelization. So we don't want them to burn. Miles said he always burns everything. But we don't want to fuss with them too much, because if you don't move them, they're going to build that color up. So, question?
A lovely comment. Not a damn chef said, "Tell your guests to be careful with the knife while cutting those apples."
Yes. Safety
The
first.
apples are all good.
Safety
all
first
cut.
in this kitchen. All right. So now we can play. Well, actually, we're gonna wait till our onions cook down just a little bit more. Again, we don't want to fuss with them too much because how we get that nice deep color is just by letting those sugars from the onion kind of like sear in the pan. Now, we don't want to like just walk away from this. If we were cooking it at home, it's not something you're just like, okay, well the onions are good. Like you literally need to pay attention while you're cooking. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on them, and I'll have
You put the stove on medium or?
the stove's on like a medium high.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna have you in the meantime grate some garlic.
Okay, I can do that.
So I'm gonna cut off the ends. That's the easiest way, and because we've had lots of comments about your knife skills here.
Oh. But Michelle Verone said, "Go, Miles."
Love you, Michelle.
We're gonna peel off the garlic, and then you're gonna use this rasp grater. If you guys watch the show, you know this is one of my favorite tools. It's like $12, and it makes everything into like a nice fine paste. Just be careful with your fingers because these parts are sharp.
Okay.
Okay, so when you get to the bottom of the garlic, wait, you want to
So,
also hold it like down on there? Yeah.
So just like that.
Yeah, but you don't have to go all the way down. You can like focus it, yeah, just like that. Perfect. Good, look, maybe we should stick to the rasp grater. I'm gonna stir my onions because I'm starting to smell them. And again, we don't want to burn them. We just want to create color, which will create that sweet flavor for us.
Good one.
If you're watching for the first time, you can pick out, if you join the newsletter, you can pick out the ingredients and actually cook along with us. And as you see, if Miles can do it, you can too. Question?
Comment. Angry Chef de Cuisine says, "Nice, great execution."
Nice. Great execution. Look, the people are loving it. The people are loving it.
I'm loving the smell.
So how far are you supposed to go down with this garlic?
Until you feel comfortable. So if you feel like you're gonna grate your fingers, that's a good place to stop. Also, it's all you can turn it, so you see how like it's
Okay.
It's like you were grating it and it was kind of small. Now you can turn it upside down or like so then
Okay.
you guys know I'm not a math person. A 90-degree angle, whatever you need to rotate it to, so you have a bigger piece to.
This is very slippery.
That's what she said.
This is why we're friends.
Alright, so if you're just joining us, we're making a caramelized apple and onion jam. We have our onions going back there. We're not fussing with them too much because we want a nice deep caramelization on our onions. I'm using a sweet onion, which helps the process a little further along. But you can use any kind of onion you have lying around.
What?
I just had to check in on Miles and see if his fingers are okay. Question?
Fingers are still there.
Ebony Think 6920 said, "I'm a horrible cook. Getting some tips."
Oh, awesome.
A little
Ebony,
bit.
if I could do it, you could do it.
And a little bit 0910 said, "I'm impressed, Miles."
Miles, see, look at you slice some apples, you slice some onions, you're grating garlic. Might be okay.
There's hope for me. There's hope.
There is hope. Alright, I'm just moving our onions around and I want to bring these to you guys so you can see them.
Ooh, that looks good.
They're starting to get brown but not burnt because I'm watching what I'm doing. We are all watching what we're doing. Your nose knows, so normally when you start smelling something, oftentimes when you're baking too, when you start smelling something, that's when you should check on it because it probably is almost done. Question?
Boys Life said, "Can't wait for Miles to make this for Friendsgiving." And I'm Wendy Lamb said, "Don't be scared, Miles. Grate until the end. So there's no more garlic."
I will not be making this for Friendsgiving.
I think you're good. So I'm gonna add the apples to our pan now. Now the reason we didn't add our apples in along with the onions is because apples already have a lot more sugar than our onions. So if we added them in at the same time, it would just like prevent the onions from getting that sweet, dark, sugary flavor that we want them to get. And I'm gonna add in our garlic is all in the back of here. The way to get it out of here is just to tap it down.
Is this
Take
supposed
out-
to be in the back of there?
Take out
Or
your
is it
anger.
supposed to be
No,
in
it
there?
is. Sometimes if you grate a lot of it, it'll start coming out. But you can just tap it down and then scoop it up with your bench scraper. And then we'll put it in our pan too. The reason we didn't put our garlic in first, like many recipes tell you to, is because it will burn. Because the pan is super hot, garlic is super small. Now it has all that moisture from the apples and onions.
So I
So
always
it's
burn my
not-
garlic, so.
Yeah. So if a recipe ever calls for onions and garlic, you want to add in the garlic second.
Got it.
So now we need to start adding layers of flavor. So we're gonna add in some salts. Last week,
Like-
Chris was salt baying over here. If you feel the need, go ahead.
I'm okay.
But I do
How
want you to
much
put in a
salt?
hearty pinch of salt, like a
Okay, like-
three-finger pinch.
Is that good?
Yeah, a little bit more. You can do 2 of those.
2 of those?
Yeah.
That seems like a lot.
Oh my God, we're gonna get heart disease. No, we're not. Salt is good for you.
Yes, read that.
Salt. Question, comment.
Comment.
2, right?
Yeah, 2.
Rintag Soldier said, "What's the recipe for Miles? He's looking like a snack."
Is that Kate?
You know, I don't know the
think I
recipe
knew
for
that
Miles. So we just added in 2 hearty pinches of salt, and now I'm just kind of mixing these apples and onions together, and it smells amazing. And now really all we have to do is cook this down. We have a couple more ingredients to add to it, however. We're gonna add in some balsamic vinegar. The balsamic vinegar is just gonna give it like an extra, at the end, like an acidity because there's so much sweetness going on. And it will also help our apples and onions reduce. Just like a tablespoon or so.
I want to do it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't trust his
I'm
measurements.
trying to learn here.
And then we're also going to add in like a spoonful of sugar. Now this is completely optional, but it will help your caramelization process
If it's brown sugar.
hurry along. It could be brown sugar, it could be honey, any type of sugar. Here, I'll let you add it in. It's gonna help your process along a lot faster. Now, again, it's completely
Just a tablespoon?
optional. Yeah, just a tablespoon. It's completely optional if you have the time to just sit and let those cook very low, very slow for a long time. You probably don't need the sugar, but it does add a little sweetness. And I'm gonna add in a little bit of water now.
How
After
much
I mix
water?
this in. Like 1/4 of a cup, less than. Because there's already a lot of moisture in these things, but it just kind of helps it along. This
Ooh, that's looking
looks so good. I wish you guys could smell it over here. It smells like fall. Alright, a little bit of water. If you had a lid, you could put a lid on. I don't think I have a lid that fits this pan, but we could just use this.
Oh,
it kind of fits. Awesome.
And
Alright.
then we leave that a medium. So
Yes.
like
Oh yeah. Now we're gonna turn it down to like a medium
Are you seeing
heat.
that?
A medium heat because we don't want it to burn, but we're also keeping a close watch on it. A medium heat though. All right. Next, we're gonna start on our broccoli rabe.
Should I turn it down or?
Oh yeah.
Is it?
I'll do it because our stove is like tricksy. Okay. So broccoli rabe. Do you like broccoli
I
rabe?
love broccoli rabe.
Oh, you're like one of
I
the
never-
few people that like it.
You know how to cook it though, but I love it.
So broccoli rabe looks like this. It's like a leaf, a stem, and even like a little flower. It's actually not even really related to broccoli that much, even though it's called broccoli rabe. It's more closely related to the turnip.
Oh really?
Learn something new every
Spinach.
day, right? All right, so I'm gonna have you just rinse this off because obviously we want to rinse off our
Got
vegetables.
an easy job.
There's sand and dirt involved, so we want to make sure that is all gone. And while he's rinsing that off, I'm gonna get our sheet pan ready. So what we're gonna do, we're making charred broccoli rabe. Charred is just a fancy word for roasted. If you ever want to make a menu and sound really, really fancy, you can put charred and it sounds really cool. Question?
Tiny T said, "Yum."
Yum. And how we're gonna roast it is we're just gonna put aluminum foil on a sheet pan, and then did you dry it off? Shake it, like shake it. You want as little moisture as possible on there, because moisture is
It's
the
like I'm shaking something else.
what's the opposite of good? The evil, the bad, the enemy. Moisture is the enemy of roasting. If you were trying to roast something and there's a lot of moisture on it, it's gonna
Is that
just
good?
steam and not get that roasted, yes. But we're not gonna be able to put all of this on this sheet tray because, as I just said, moisture is the enemy of roasting. So we wanna make sure there's a good amount of space amongst all of our broccoli rabe, so it has like its own little individual place. If you've ever
Now,
tried
how
to...
much is this a serving for?
So when we put this in the oven, it's gonna wilt down, just like spinach, but not quite as bad as spinach. So I would say this is probably 2 or 3 servings, depending on the people eating.
So Chris can eat.
Chris doesn't want this anyway. And also, I don't know if you guys noticed, I cut off the ends because the ends can tend to be a little woodsy. This is still too much. I'm like very tempted sometimes when I'm being lazy, I like just put everything on there, but I promise you it will not roast properly if there's not enough space on the pan for it to roast in its beautifulness. Alright, so this is pretty good. You see there's like some good space on the pan. Now we're gonna just drizzle it with some olive oil.
Can I do this?
Yes, you can do it. Not too much, because if you put too much, it'll end up, well, you can open it too. I'm like over here struggling. If you put too much, it'll end up oily. Question?
Yes, Laura Sanford asked, what's the substitute for broccoli rabe?
So this roasting method works with, so just drizzle. Drizzle, let me know what you're doing. Okay, yeah. Okay, stop. That's good. Again, not too much, because you don't want to end up with oily broccoli rabe. Substitute for broccoli rabe, literally any vegetable that you like. Broccolini is actually really good roasted. I actually really like broccoli, same family. Cauliflower, if you want to do green. Kale roasted is kind of good. There's like a
With spinach
medium.
of it?
No, I wouldn't roast spinach. That's no.
I don't know.
Have you ever burned spinach on the stove? It smells like burning hair. It's pretty gross. Question?
Miles is so popular. PR De Leon 77 said he knows how to drizzy.
Oh,
You
wow.
know that, Peter.
Alright, so now I'm going to sprinkle this with a little bit of salt. Also, when you're roasting vegetables, you can toss in any sort of seasoning you like. I really like garlic powder or garlic salt. And then I'm going to let you get your hands dirty, because you know how to juicy. I'm going to let you, so you want to kind of make sure all of the broccolini is coated, like with the oil.
With the oil.
Yeah. And then we're going to put this in a high heat oven. Like literally, I have my little mini
450?
stove on. Yeah, I have my mini stove on 450. Anywhere, you never want to roast below like 415, but you never want, well obviously your oven probably doesn't go higher than 500. But the higher you go, the more you have to watch whatever you're roasting, because it can burn like this. It can go from like absolutely delicious to like burnt and crispy. So, yep, perfect. See, even just putting that olive oil on it kind of made it already smaller already. All right, you can wash your hands. I'm gonna throw this in our oven. It should take like 10 to 15 minutes. Like again, I have a mini oven, and my oven likes to turn on and off and do all kinds of weird things. So I just kind of have to be a little more careful. A great thing to have in your own house is the oven thermometer, because then you always know what temperature your oven is, no matter what the dial says. So let's put this in here.
So what if you're cooking for one, you have like a small New York City apartment, and you have like a toaster oven? Can you do it like in that?
I've never tried roasting it in a toaster. Do you have a toaster oven?
I do not. But I'm just asking for those people
Does
that don't
anyone at
have
home
like
have a toaster oven and tried to roast vegetables in their toaster oven? If you have, let us know.
Let us know.
I'd really like. I have a small New York apartment, so I don't
all
have
the
room
kitchens
for
in
a
New York City
toaster.
are small, so like.
Yeah, but I don't want to put.
Or if you're in a hurry, you want to throw something in the toaster oven.
That's
Oh.
true. But the other thing is, if you're making root vegetables, it'll take a lot longer for them to cook through, because they're thicker and more starchy. So green vegetables. What happened? Oh, pause. Green vegetables will be faster than your starchy vegetables. All right, so we are making. What's next? So we have our apple and onion jam going back here. It's like bubbling away,
Ooh, that
creating
smells
good, delicious flavors and juiciness. We have our broccolini roasting. We just sprinkled it with a little bit of salt and a little bit of olive oil. And next we need to do our pork chops. I'm actually going to switch this back. If you want to grab them right there. Back here. All right. If you want to go ahead and unwrap them, but just leave them in the paper. So, pork chops. A lot of people I know are like not so into these are also like a lot of meat. Yeah. This is like a 2 serving unless you're Miles apparently, because he eats a lot. A lot of people are kind of opposed to pork, eating pork chops. Pork is actually a really good choice for eating lean, and like it has a lot of vitamins and nutrients that you might not think about. Also, if you're gonna eat pork, you want to go for the lean cuts. Like pork chops come from the loin, pork loin, and also like it's a better choice than eating bacon. Bacon is way more delicious, but this is a healthier choice than eating bacon. Bacon has like 1,000 more calories. So I opted for thick cut. Like if you're cooking pork chops, they're known to be tough and not so delicious, tough and dry. So the way you can circumvent that is getting them bone in. So I have this bone. That's gonna help seal in some of the moisture and flavor. You get flavor from the bone. And then you also want to try to get them as thick as possible. So these are about an inch. Yes, I'm going to leave that fat on. I actually really love that. Question?
Tiny T said, Miles loves bacon.
Yes, I do.
So I'm just going to rinse my hand. Also, pork doesn't carry the same like salmonella that chicken does, but it's always safe to wash your hands like after you're eating. Another good tip for if you're handling meat at home, instead of having to get your whole cutting board dirty, I tend to just like to unwrap it on the paper that it came in. This goes for seafood, this goes for pork. And then I just season it on this paper rather than like get a whole nother thing dirty, because I really hate washing dishes. Question. Also, one more thing. I have our pan, our super giant saucepan over here, or not saucepan, frying pan, getting really, really, really hot. Question. Comment.
Dot Thrash said, that pork chop is thick.
Yes, it is very, very thick. All right, so now we're gonna season our pork chop. You wanna do a 3-finger. This is actually like 4 fingers, and then you want to generously sprinkle
Over one pork chop or?
over one, and then we're gonna turn them around. You literally want to see the salt on your pork chop. And again, you're probably like, oh my god, it's gonna be so salty. But that's why food at restaurants tastes so good, because this is what they do.
Oh.
And especially because we're not gonna fool with this pork chop too much. We're going to just put salt and pepper. Where did my pepper go? Oh, excuse me. One moment, please. I left my pepper on the spice rack in the hallway, I think. Oh yeah. Question?
There's a comment.
Oh, really?
I think it follows the pork chop is thick comment, like Chefleen.
Oh, yeah, I am.
That was courtesy of Sequoia.
Oh, thanks. Told you I was sick, working on my winter body. All right, so
I am Wampy said, I hope that's adobo. LOL.
No adobo tonight.
Oh my goodness. So we're making pork chops au poivre, which means pork chops with pepper. So I generally say when you're searing things not to put pepper on there, but because we're literally making a peppered dish, we're gonna generously put pepper on here as well. And it's okay if you're too peppery here, because we're gonna pair it with our apple and onion jam, which is gonna be sweet. So we have that contrast in flavors.
How's that?
That's perfect. So let's just flip them over so we don't have to get our hands dirty. Use the tongs. And we're gonna salt and pepper the other side. I'll start peppering. You start salting. So pork chops have a bad rap because they are tough. They can be tough and dry. But if you sprinkle, not dollop. They can be tough and dry. But the bone will really help that. So, but if you're using a boneless pork chop, my suggestion would be to marinate it before, because they really hold in flavor. It's a little bit harder to marinate. I mean, it's totally possible, but it's a little harder to marinate a bone-in pork chop because this bone is literally blocking that marination from going in that whole side. So it doesn't really, it's not so effective. You can do it, but these kind of pork chops are best seared at high heat, and then we're gonna finish them in the same oven that our broccoli rabe is cooking in. So, have you watched the show before?
Yes.
Yes, sort of. What do we do when we sear? What is searing?
You're just browning the outside.
Yeah, but what do we need?
You
In
need
the
oil.
pan? Oil and like super, super hot. Clearly, Ross, she's a big fan, obviously,
I
guys.
don't know how to cook. I told you this is why I'm on the show.
All right, so we're gonna use. Now, I've told you guys this a million times that high heat oil is not olive oil. It's not the best, but your alternatives are like coconut oil, which sometimes imparts a little coconutty flavor, which we don't really want here. Avocado oil, which is expensive. Canola oil, which is not so great for you. So I still use olive oil. It's like the lightest version of olive oil, but it's not like your deep, dark green olive oil that's super expensive. I don't know. But if you really want a super,
So this is
super hard
budget
sear,
olive oil?
this is actually really good olive oil, but it's not like super extra virgin olive oil. Like, you know, olive oils that you taste and you're like, oh, it tastes like grass and berries. Like, it's not one of those olive oils.
I don't think I ever tasted olive oil like that.
Really? You've never been on an olive oil tasting?
No.
They have
Never
that.
had olive oil tasting.
Who's never been in an olive oil? I tried to get Chris to do that in Monterey. He was like, no.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna step out of the way because I want you to sear over here.
Oh, yes.
All right. So we want to make sure that it's super hot, and the way that we tell this is that it's It goes like that.
We have a question.
Question?
Why is canola oil bad for you?
Canola oil is bad for you. I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist, but I know it has a lot of like the fats that are not good for your body. There's like 2 different kinds of fats. One's good, one's bad. I could really like teach a class on this, obviously.
Stop buying that.
Yeah, it's really, if you're conscious of your health, you don't want to use it as much.
You get such a big gallon.
I can't tell you exactly why, but it's the bad has way more bad fats than good fats. Before I take the next question, I want Miles. So when you're searing, you want to think about these 3 pork chops should fit in the pan, and you don't want to touch them once you put them in the pan because you want to create that Maillard reaction. And if you move them around, the Maillard reaction is caramelization, which is flavor, the dark color. And if you move them around once you put them in the pan, it won't have that. So think about what you're doing before you start putting them in the pan.
I'm gonna put the biggest one.
Question.
Laura Sanford asked, does the pan matter? Like cast iron versus nonstick?
Yes, cast iron is the best pan for like searing things because it keeps its heat all the way around like very, very evenly. There's a reason that they've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. But the downside of cast iron is that it's very hard to maintain and take care of. So generally for real life, this is real life cooking, I use a nonstick pan. They also nowadays make nonstick cast iron, which I feel like are kind of a cop-out. Like you should just use cast iron, you should just use nonstick. Because when you use the nonstick cast iron, it ends up like not being nonstick and it's just kind of disaster. So choose one or the other. Cast iron is the best. I feel like it's not loud enough. No, I do not have a cast iron. Christmas gift, anyone?
Chris.
Yeah, I feel like that wasn't quite hot enough. We should be hearing like, oh my gosh, like the smoke alarm should be going off. But we're just gonna let them not move. We're gonna just let them chill.
How long do you leave it? Like on
We're gonna leave them at least 3 minutes. If it was super hot, we probably would flip it sooner. But because it wasn't quite as hot, we're just gonna pretend they're not there. I know it's like very tempting to like look and see what you're doing, but we're just gonna be like, no, those pork chops are chilling in that pan. They're having a great time by themselves. No pork chops over there. What we're gonna do
That's how it usually burns off.
is check on our apple and onion jam. Let's bring this over. Oh goodness. I'm gonna bring this over here. Let me grab a spoon. So now we've created, it smells so good. We've created, the apples are soft, the onions are even softer. You can like break them up with a fork. But we have all this moisture in the bottom. So we created that moisture because we put the lid on, but now we want to take off the lid and let that moisture evaporate so it can become thicker and more jam-like in consistency. And also the sugar is going to help that become more jam-like in consistency because, you know, sugar gets thick when it gets hot and it reduces down. So we're just going to, again, we're not paying attention to anything that's happening over there.
So what do?
We relax, we meditate. Actually, we can check on our broccolini because the oven is super hot. Here's a hot thing, hot mat. What are those called? Hot pots.
Hot flashes.
Hot what?
Pot holder.
Pot holders. Thank you. Yeah, take it out.
Take it out. Give it a bottle.
What is it? No, you just need one. Put it on here. Miles is confused. So again, woo, this is super hot. We're making roasted broccolini, so this is exactly what we're looking for. It's like slightly crispy in some places.
Ooh, that looks good.
And so it'll give us a nice textural element. Actually, now would be a good time to check on our pork chops before I continue on with this.
So just
Pick one up and flip it over, and hopefully, is it coming up? Oh no, leave it there. So another thing is if your pork chop or meat, whatever you're cooking, you can make this recipe with chicken, you can make it with all kinds of different things. If it doesn't lift up right away, your meat will tell you when it's ready. So you want to leave it in the pan until it is ready. Let me grab a plate. Because we can make our second round, if you want to just, hold on, not with that, because we just used it for the pork. We'll just take this off and let it sit to the side. Now remember, this pan is super hot, so when we put our second round of broccoli rabe on here, don't touch it with your hands.
Got it.
Question?
Yes. Raymond Briante Green said, "What time will you be bringing my plate?"
I don't know. You live all the way in Brooklyn,
I
so
know, right?
that's-
You could come up to Harlem.
That's
Too far.
a little aggressive. All right. So we're gonna put. Remember, we didn't put all our broccoli rabe on here to begin with because if we did, it would be too much moisture and it wouldn't have gotten nice and crispy like it just did. All right. I'm gonna
So we
let
have to
you
salt.
oil and salt it. Salt it. Also, another thing when you're searing, your stove is probably not giving even heat, especially right here. I have this giant pan and this small little burner. So what you want to do is kind of rotate it around so all your pork chops are getting even love or whatever you're cooking, even love all around it. Don't burn yourself.
Yeah, I just realized that.
If you're just joining us in Real Life Cooking, welcome. We have my good friend Miles here, event planner extraordinaire, not really chef extraordinaire.
Shout out to One Hotels.
Shout out to Brooklyn One Hotel. And we are making pork chops au poivre with a, what are we making?
Broccoli.
Broccoli rabe.
Broccoli
Charred.
rabe.
No, there's a
Broccoli
fancy
rabe.
word. I put fancy
Charred
words.
broccoli-
Charred broccoli
broccoli
rabe.
rabe.
And
We
apple
don't even
and
know what
onion
we're cooking.
jam. I put everything fancy because I have renowned event planner here, so you know I need to keep it fancy. All right, that looks good. You're really into the massaging there. I'll put it in the oven, and you can wash off your hands. All right, I'm gonna put this in the oven. My janky oven. All right, now I'm gonna check our pork chops again. Whew. Yes. Yes.
Ooh,
So
that
this is
smells
the
so
color, as I drip juice all over,
Ooh.
that we want. And now I'm gonna flip it back, or flip that over, and see. Oh my gosh! Look at see. We trusted that we weren't gonna burn it, and we did it. We got
Good
the
job,
nice
Mom.
I did it.
Good job, Mom.
caramelization
So
going
nice.
without burning it. Oh, that one's not quite done. I'm gonna leave it there. Because again, that one was in the back of the heat, so we didn't rotate the pan around. Question?
Kids Are Foodies 2 said, "Hey, you go girl. I love pork chops."
Thank you. Also, we're gonna add in rosemary just to the oil. What the rosemary is gonna do, it's not really flavoring it per se, but it's flavoring the oil, which is gonna get on the pork chop. And you can just like throw that in the pan, and it'll kind of like infuse the flavor. If you wanted to throw in a smashed garlic clove, that would be the time to do that too. Question?
You don't need to take apart the rosemary. You can just stay on the.
Throw it in.
I mean, if we were gonna like chop it up, you would definitely want to take off this stem because that's essentially what it is, a piece of wood. That's not really edible. But if we're just for this purposes, like we're just kind of infusing the oil, we don't need to take it off. And actually kind of makes for a pretty presentation because it'll get kind of toasty and brown. All right, so if you're just joining us, we're making pork chops. I'm gonna just stop saying it fancy. We're making pork chops, broccoli rabe, and apple and onion jam. Our apple and onion jam is actually almost done. If you guys saw it earlier, there's a lot of liquid in there. It's starting to reduce. I really want to keep an eye on this because Miles says he burns everything, and I don't want to burn this. And because of the sugars in there, it could burn very easily once this liquid evaporates. We want all the liquid to evaporate, but as soon as it evaporates, it's pretty much done. So we want to make sure we're cognizant of that. And so while
once it's evaporated, it's done. We take it off.
question?
Kids Are Foodies 2 said, "Oh, good to know. You have the best recipes."
Oh, why thank you. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start on our dessert because we're fancy like that. And we're leaving our pork chops to cook. So if you could grab the coconut, the quinoa, the coconut oil, and the ghee. Quinoa is in those two packages. Yep. And we're gonna use the sugar again. Let's move it so they can see a little bit like that.
Is that everything?
Yeah. All right. So what we're gonna make is a Hassleback apple. It's kind of a take on a apple crumb, but it's so much easier to make.
Is this healthy?
It is kind of healthy. So last week my client asked me to make an apple dessert with no sugar and no gluten. I was like, what? What can I use? And so I ended up making an apple crumb. I use maple syrup here. I'm definitely using sugar in my own dessert. But I still kept the gluten out because we're going to be using coconut and quinoa for the crunchy topping.
Should we check that pork chop?
Yeah, let's check it. Oh yeah, good job. See, look, there's a chef inside of you.
I know, I'm
You're.
Like, I don't want to burn anything.
So we're gonna be question.
Boy's Life said, Miles' last dessert attempt was a rubber cake.
What? Okay, we're gonna be making the topping. So actually, before we do that, let's take our pork chops off. If you can grab that pan over there, this sheet pan.
Skill set point. Nice. Bacon.
All right, we're gonna put aluminum foil. I always like to cover my sheet pans with something because, again, I don't like doing dishes, and this is so much easier
So good.
than doing your dishes. And we're gonna take out, actually this pan,
Can that go in the oven?
it can, but not in my mini oven, so we're not gonna do that. I'm gonna take out these
We smell the rosemary.
pork
It smells
chops. Yeah. Put them on our sheet pan. Now, biggest question I get whenever I'm making any kind of protein or meat is how do you know that it's done? There's a finger test where it moves like that. It's like super firm. It's pretty firm now. That one's kind of
That's
not
not
so
so
firm in
hard.
the middle. This one's really firm. This is
This
how
one's
like
firm
this.
too.
They gave me like a baby bone pork chop. I don't appreciate that. Question?
TT Lyle Weech said, who replaced me today? Well, TT.
Well, do you hear the voice in the background?
Sorry, TT.
TT, do you love me?
Right.
Your awesome friend Nikki.
All right. We are, so how you tell your protein or meat, chicken, pork chop, steak is done, you're going to temp it from the side. And we're looking for a temperature of 145 for done pork chops. Can you tell them the magic number of this
That's
one?
not done.
No, it's at 118. Generally, I don't feel the need to poke all of my pork chops or poke all of my steak.
Or do you?
Because when you do stick the thermometer inside, juices are going to come out. So you don't want to do that to every single one. So I like to pick the thickest one and choose. And
You like the thickest one?
I do like the thickest one. That one's definitely mine. All right, I'm going to put this in the oven because we're going to sear it and then finish it in the oven. Because that's how we're going to keep all that moisture. But we have that beautiful caramelization that we created by not touching it. Yes. And using high heat. Oh, I think our second round of broccoli rabe is done. Yes. All right, let's take this off. If you want to grab those small tongs over there. This is super hot. Again, this didn't take very long at all. I think this was like 7 minutes. And if you don't like broccoli rabe, a lot of people don't because it's kind of bitter. Again, it's related to the turnip. The turnip? What did I think? Like Tuesday turnip. But roasting it actually really gives it, like, takes away some of that bitterness. If you have not tried it, definitely try it. I'm gonna move this over here, out of the way. And also, before we get started on our dessert, check our. We
So
still
it
have
still
quite.
has moisture.
Yeah, it still has moisture and a lot of liquid. I'm gonna move it to not the janky burner at my house, the front burner. All right, and turn this off. Okay, back to dessert, guys. We're back to where we started. We're making a topping that is gluten-free. It could be sugar-free if you're crazy, or healthy, one of the two. And it's actually, you could make it with butter. We're gonna use coconut oil, just a little bit of coconut oil. Butter would taste better, but I'm trying to be halfway healthy. I'm using sugar, so I'm gonna use coconut oil. We could use a mixture actually if you want to grab that ghee. Question?
TT Lyle Weech said, dessert? I feel so betrayed.
Sorry, it's healthy dessert though, TT. You wouldn't want this. So we're gonna use a mixture of coconut oil and ghee, which is butter that has the milk solids removed. So this is still vegan, actually. It tastes like butter. It's what a lot of Jewish people use because they can't eat dairy and meat
So this
together.
is kosher?
Yeah, it's kosher. You could put it, put about the same amount that I put the coconut oil in. You could also just use melted butter if you're a
Is that
normal
good?
human. Yeah, that's good. Question?
TT Lyle said, oh, never mind.
All right, and then for our crunchy topping, we're gonna add in some shredded coconut. And this is super shredded, unsweetened, not the stuff that you find in like the normal grocery store.
Do
You
you
kind of
use
have to
from
go
Whole
to
Foods?
or like a health food store. Not like this coconut that you make like macaroons out of. That's like basically eating sugar. This is just tastes like coconut. So we'll add in like a cup of that. I mean, these measurements are kind of loosey-goosey, you know. And then what I really liked and what I found when I made this healthy dessert is I used, instead of oats, because the client also wasn't eating oats, I just sprinkled in some uncooked quinoa for that extra crunch. And you'll see how you're like probably like, what the heck?
I'm like quinoa dessert.
Yeah. And then we're gonna add in a healthy dose of sugar to balance all of this health that we have going on. And then I'm just gonna, and then we also want to add in some salt to balance.
Salt?
Yeah, the salt's just gonna balance all that sweetness.
This
all that
dinner got a lot of salt in it.
That's how it tastes good. Question?
If you don't like coconut, can you use anything else?
Yes, you can just use like chopped nuts, like chopped almonds, or chopped like pecans would be really good. You could also add in the chopped nuts to this, but I didn't want to add like too many ingredients and scare people away, so that's why I didn't. And then I'm just kind of working this around to resemble sort of like a streusel or a crumble, like when you make like apple pie. This actually would be really good on apple pie too. Question?
TTIO said, how can we make this recipe less healthy?
Less healthy? You can use
More sugar.
real butter,
Real butter.
and more sugar.
Real butter.
Oh, also, you know what else we forgot to add? Well, not we forgot. Cinnamon would be lovely in here since we're
Ooh,
making
do you have
something
any?
with apples. Yes, but I'm going to give you a task before. I need you to cut the apple in half. And then we're going to
Just in
spoon
half?
out. Wait, hold on. Where'd my thing go? We're going to spoon out, if you have just a tablespoon or a melon baller, we're going to spoon out the middle core part, just like that. And I'm going to check our, just like that. And then this part, sometimes you can cut it out just like that, because it's edible, but it's not the most appealing thing to eat. So we want to end up with apples that look like this. I'm going to trust Miles. I'm going to turn my back. I'll let you guys watch, be very entertained. Question?
Brenda Tafoya said, Chef Miles! Wait.
So I'll scoop out both of them.
Yes, scoop out both. And our apple and onion jam is back here basically done. Most of the moisture's gone. I'm going to let it go like another minute. Also, I'm going to check on our pork chops because my oven is super high. Careful, don't open the oven. Our oven is super high and I don't want to overcook your pork chops or burn Miles back here. Because if you overcook your pork chops, that's how you make them not juicy and delicious. Where did my thermometer go? Over here. I'm going to temp them from the side. Ooh, perfect. That one's done.
Oh, this one came out better.
Alright, our pork chops are done. And just like any other meat that I've made on the show, we want to let our pork chops rest. That will help the juices like come together inside, and when if you cut it right now, all those juices are just released on the plate. Not only does that look ugly, but then you're pretty good, not so bad. Are your fingers okay?
Yeah, they're good.
Now we're going to cut, we're going to remove our trash. We're going to cut them into the Hassleback fashion, which is just like thinly sliced. So the easiest way to do this is with two like chopsticks or these are skewers. You can lay your apple down like that, and then we're gonna just very carefully make thin slices all the way down. And what the skewers are doing is kind of helping you not cut all the way through your apple. If you cut all the way through your apple, it's not the end of the world.
It's so smart.
It just won't look as perfected. Alright, so then you'll end up with something that's kind of like accordion. At the bottom it's all connected, but at the top it's like thin little slices. I'm gonna let Miles take over. Let's see what happens. Watch what happens.
Watch what happens.
I'm nervous
I
over here.
know, like, when they line up like skewers.
So typically you can make this recipe. You could prepare your crumble, you could prepare your apple, and you could bake it in the oven if you have the time. You're gonna get a much deeper flavor. I won't say it's like more delicious, but if you have the time, definitely bake this in the oven for like 20-30 minutes. This is real life cooking. We don't have 30 minutes to bake something in the oven. Oh my God, his fingers are like so. You want to keep your fingers like away from the knife. Don't
So
worry,
this-
it's not. It's just a snack for me. I'll do the last one. Just you know.
I mean, did this come out good?
Yeah, pretty good. Let's see. They're still connected. They're all connected, everyone. That's exactly what we were looking for. Wait, how did this happen? What the heck? It's okay. There's
You
no
left
waste.
me.
There's no waste in this kitchen. All right, so we're gonna cut, but we're gonna do a simple, or not a simple, a faster way of doing this. Oopsie, look.
See, not the only one.
I just wanted to show you sometimes perfection fails too. We'll just have a little half of an apple.
That could be Chris's.
Chris probably doesn't want this either. All right, now we're gonna just drizzle these with coconut oil, butter, whatever you want, ghee. I'm gonna drizzle with a little bit of ghee.
Should I put coconut oil on it?
We don't need both. We're just drizzling a tad. And then we're going to put the crumble on top. And then we're literally gonna put these in the microwave for like 30 seconds. Again, if you have the time, put them in the oven. You'll end up with a much more caramelized, crispy, crunchy crust. But this is a great way if you don't have like a ton of time and you're in the mood for a sweet snack. All right, putting these in for 30 seconds while we plate our dinner. Ooh, not 3 minutes. 30, not 3 minutes. There we go. There we go. All right, let's clear some of this away so we can plate up our final dish. Let's move it out of the way. Can you grab a plate from there? So, we have our broccoli rabe that we roasted in the oven at a super high heat for like 10-12 minutes. We have
Get
our
rid of this?
pork chops. No, we can leave it. Our pork chops, they're sitting over here resting. And we have our apple and onion jam. Question?
Nikki L said, I appreciate using a microwave to cook too. Deaf, real life cooking.
Yes, the microwave comes in handy sometimes. I know some people don't like to use it, but so at 30 seconds we're gonna check it. These apples are like, so they're Honeycrisp apples. It's like my absolute favorite kind of apple. They're still not very soft, so I'm gonna put them in another 30 seconds. Oh, I actually had a fun fact for you guys. Honeycrisp apples, they're so expensive. They're like $1.79 each, and I'm always like, why are they so expensive? They're so expensive because they're the only apple that are simply bred for taste and not like anything else. Like all other apples are made so they can ship them, store them, like they can get to us easily. But Honeycrisp apples, actually about half of them don't even make it to the stores. It takes like such a hard
Where
work.
can you buy these usually?
Any store now. They actually were invented in 1977. But now, over the past 4 years, because they have such high demand, they've like doubled their production. Question?
What do they use the other apples for?
What do they use the other apples for?
Yeah.
Well, when they breed them, they're breeding. A lot of our vegetables, especially in America, are bred just so they can be shipped to us. So like, they're not worried about. That's why food from the farmers market tastes so good, because they're literally just like growing small batches, and they're not producing like 50 million apples that they're trying to get to stores. And when they're getting to stores, like they're coming from California and like in big trucks and refrigerated trucks. And Honeycrisp apples are very delicate. And also they're just delicate from when they're growing, like they have to cut off a certain stem. I'm a botanist now today too. I just found this really interesting because I've always wondered why I'm like leaving the store, I'm like $10 for apples, like why am I doing this? But they are truly the best apple ever. Enough with our apple lesson. Alright, so how we're going to check if our apples are done, well, can you grab a paper towel? Is we're going to take just a small little paring knife. These are still pretty crispy. You know, when I was doing these, yeah. Oh no, just wipe down the edge of the plate. I'm going to put them in for another minute. When I made these earlier, oh, you know what, because I was doing one at a time. Now there's 3, so it's going to take longer. Smart. I'm going to put them in for 1 minute, and we're going to plate up our pork. How would you like to arrange it?
Let me see.
Careful.
I think I want this piece. Is this hot?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. That would help.
Alright, so we're going to put that on the side. And then we'll put some of our broccoli rabe, our roasted broccoli rabe. I'm gonna just like kind of prop it up underneath there. Presentation, you guys.
Everything.
You know, you
Presentation's
eat,
everything.
you eat with your eyes first, and then if you can grab, let me see this paper towel again. You need a spoon. We're gonna put some of that apple and onion jam that we made right on there. Another great secret, if you're cooking pork and you don't want it to be dry, is have like a great sauce or a great tag-along, because sauce makes everything better. So we're gonna put that right on top, and then you know that crispy rosemary. We can grab one of those. Now, rosemary by itself, I normally don't condone like garnishing with something that's not edible, but the crispy rosemary is actually kind of edible. Not on the stem, but it's just prettier, so I'm gonna go against everything and just put that directly on there, just like that. And there you have our pork chop au poivre with our broccoli raw. Yes, bring it. With our broccoli raw and our our apple and onion jam. And we also have our Hassleback potatoes. They're nice and soft, just cooked in the microwave. Again, if you have the time, you should throw them in the oven, because then this part will get nice and crispy and delicious. Miles, thank you so much for joining me today. Did you have, my first hug on real life? Not even, Chris, did you give me a hug on real life cooking?
Not even the Valentine's Day special.
I gave you a kiss.
Thanks. Oh, that was even better.
Guys, if I could cook this, you guys could cook this.
Stay
So my
tuned.
go-to
I'm gonna take
dish.
a video when he first tastes it. I have to take a picture before he can taste it. But stay tuned for that wrap-up video coming up. Real Life Cooking will return in 2 weeks. We have some great things coming for you. Oh, we have one more question.
2 comments.
Then-
Pierre DeLeon77 said, "Fantastico, you two looked amazing." Kids Are
Thank you.
Foodies too said, "Great stream."
Thank you guys. Real Life Cooking will return in 2 weeks. Sadly, Miles will not be here, but maybe he'll make an appearance. Maybe he'll watch the show and have some great comments
Yes.
or something. Watch the show. Thanks, guys. See you later. Adios.
Time to eat.